We know that we've seen that back and forth continuing between the Houthis and Israel. Again, this is just some of the video that is coming in out of there as sirens sounded across central Israel overnight after the Houthi terror group fired another ballistic missile attack from Yemen. The Houthis have taken responsibility for the attack, saying that they were targeting Israel's Ben Gurion airport. This was the fifth attack by the Houthis on Israel over just the course of 8 days, and this time the missile was intercepted, not making it into Israeli territory. Israeli officials say at least 18 people were injured, suffering minor injuries there as they rushed over to bomb shelters. And the Houthi attack is in response to Israel's retaliatory attack Thursday, striking Houthi targets in Yemen, including at the airport, in the capital, and at several ports. Now, we also know that the ceasefire is still in effect between Israel and Hezbollah over in Lebanon. Do want to talk more about that and the situation with the Houthis, so let's bring in David Daoud, Senior Fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Thank you so much, as always, for taking the time to be here.
Hey, Josh, nice to see you.
All right, so first off, of course, you are an expert there in Hezbollah and Lebanon. So I do want to ask you kind of the status there of the ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah, because at first it seemed like it was possibly going to be broken. You had seen each side saying that the other had broken the ceasefire. How do things stand right now?
Well, I think, again, we have a situation of deceptive quiet, which, if you want to call that a ceasefire holding, fine. What we have is the Lebanese government continuing to demonstrate inability or unwillingness to enact the ceasefire's terms in any way against Hezbollah. There's been limited LAF, Lebanese Armed Forces deployment to South Lebanon, but at the same time, we've not seen one single action by the Lebanese government, by any Lebanese state agency against Hezbollah to even take one single weapons cache away from the group. So that in and of itself constitutes a serious violation through omission of the ceasefire deal. What we have seen also is the Israelis continuing pinpoint strikes against Hezbollah in Lebanon. The past 2 days, we've seen strikes as deep in the Bekaa Valley. Yesterday, overnight, there was a strike in Baalbek, for example. And the Israelis are being more tight-lipped about what they're responding to now. But we can assume that these are continued violations by Hezbollah of the ceasefire agreement, continued attempts maybe to rearm, to move weapons by the group. So again, deceptive quiet, but at the same time, I think the situation is not one where Hezbollah is on the path to disarmament in Lebanon, and Israel is still assuming the right to attack the group because the ceasefire deal's terms are not being implemented by Lebanon.
When you talk about all of these different Iranian proxies, we're talking Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis. How do they kind of rank? Where does Hezbollah rank as far as strength, missiles, and things of that nature? Because my understanding from the IDF is that Hezbollah has been taken down quite a bit over the past year or so.
It absolutely has been. I mean, it's hard to say where it ranks in strength now, but just a few months ago, it was Iran's number one proxy, not just because of the strength of its arms and its missiles, because this was the organization that had the veterancy, the experience, the knowledge to act as the tip of Iran's regional spear, wherever Iran has gone in the region, be it in Lebanon, of course, but also in Syria, its intervention in Iraq, it's in Yemen. Hezbollah is there first to lay the groundwork, to find partners, to train them, to bring them into the Iranian orbit. In the Palestinian territories, I mean, Hezbollah is the organization that imparted knowledge to Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad to build tunnels, rocket warfare, and to commit the horrors that we saw on October 7th. Now, yeah, they have been taken down a notch, but I still, and not just in terms of their arsenal, but the degradation of knowledge that has happened, the degradation of veterancy, through this Israeli campaign, right? The assassination of Nasrallah, the assassination of other military commanders. But I think Iran would like to see them assume their old role because right now there's not a clear substitute in this constellation of forces that are loyal to Iran that could act in the way that Hezbollah did.
One thing that's interesting is we heard from Iran's supreme leader essentially saying that Yes, you have these Iranian proxies that exist, but they don't need the Houthis. They don't need Hezbollah, Hamas, any of them. To hear that from Iran's supreme leader, is that basically a lie?
I think it's a bit of an exaggeration. The Iranians like to claim that they've never occupied a country in their surroundings. It's technically true. They make countries occupy themselves. They make native sons of each land do the dirty work for them. It's a cleaner process for Iran. It creates a degree of plausible deniability. It creates a separation from the act and the responsibility for it. So it's a very effective method for the Iranians, and one that keeps them shielded from a lot of the nastier consequences of their actions had they put direct forces on the ground. So, yes, of course, Iran is going to sit there and say it doesn't need any of these forces. It's not going to tip its weak hand. But if we look realistically at how Iran has operated in the region since the rise of the Islamic Republic in 1979, it has been through these proxy forces for these reasons. You get the benefit without the consequences.
And my last question for you here, we've made this distinction before, but I want to make sure that we make it for viewers out there, because we know that Hezbollah is associated with Lebanon. But can you explain how the people of Lebanon do feel about Hezbollah overall?
Well, I think it depends what you mean by the people of Lebanon. There's not a unified Lebanese people to speak of in a manner of speaking, because Lebanon's identity is highly sectarian. And even within that sectarian fractured identity, you have feudal loyalties to specific chieftains that override any sectarian loyalty and definitely any national loyalty. So if we're talking about, there's whole swaths of Lebanese society, maybe Sunnis, predominant Christians, who don't agree with Hezbollah, who might have negative views on Hezbollah. But if you look at the base from which Hezbollah derives its strength, the Shiites. Now, this is, as far as we know, Lebanon's largest demographic. I say as far as we know because Lebanon hasn't had a census since 1932. We can also assume it's Lebanon's largest growing demographic. According to the most recent polls, an Arab Barometer poll from September of 2024 showed that 85% of Lebanese Shiites support or have trust in Hezbollah, and only 5% don't. Right? In a poll in January by the Washington Institute, 89% of Lebanese Shiites said they strongly support Hezbollah. 93% said they support it to some degree. So this is a massive support base that Hezbollah has from within Lebanon's largest demographic.
All right, David Daoud, thank you so much, as always, for taking the time to join us here. Anything you want to add before I let you go?
Again, I keep saying this, even though it's quiet on the northern front, keep your eyes on the northern front because the ceasefire may not hold indefinitely.
And you say it all the time, but it's always true. So we definitely appreciate that. Thank you again for being here with us.